Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a front hub on this 2003 GMC Envoy XL. And the items that you'll need for this is a new hub from 1AAuto.com, 17, 18, 19, and 35 millimeter socket and ratchet, piece of pipe for extra leverage, 18 millimeter wrench, flat blade screwdriver, torque wrench, hammer, and jack and jack stands. Start off by prying off your hubcap. And then just loosen up this 35 millimeter nut. And now loosen the lug nuts in a crossing pattern. And we'll just fast forward as Mike does this. And once you've loosened them, just jack the vehicle up and then remove the lug nuts the rest of the way. Now the wheel will pull off. Now you want to remove these two 17 millimeter bolts, and you can see Mike's using an 18 millimeter wrench to hold the nut on the inside. I'll just make it easier to remove that bolt. Now using a flat blade screwdriver, just pry out on the caliper. And then you can just set that aside. Now pry out your brake pads. Now you want to remove these two 18 millimeter bolts. And we'll just fast forward as Mike does that. And you can see he's using a piece of pipe for some extra leverage to help break those bolts free.
And remove the bolts the rest of the way, and then the caliper bracket comes off. Now you need to remove your rotor, and hopefully you can just use a hammer, tap on the rotor a little bit, and it'll come off. Our vehicle has some corrosion, so we end up using the alternate method.
Alright, so if you have trouble getting the rotor off, it actually has press holes. You would get a bolt that's the proper size. I believe this is an M12 bolt, and you use two bolts, thread them into those holes, and as you tighten them up, they press against the hub and push the rotor off.
And once you've removed the rotor, if you haven't already, remove the center hub nut the rest of the way. Give the axle a good firm hit with a hammer, and once you see it's moving, then you know it's free.
Next, you want to disconnect these clips along this harness. And to do that, you just flip those open with a flat blade screwdriver, or you can just pry them out. But first, pull the harness connection out from the car, and then push the tab and disconnect the harness. And we'll just fast forward as Mike pries out those clips.
And just note, we did just unclip the harness that is connected to the upper control arm and left it in place.
Now just remove these three 18 millimeter bolts that hold in the hub. And first, we're just going to spray the other side with some penetrating oil to help remove them. And we'll fast forward as Mike removes these. And it does help to turn the wheels so you have better access to whichever one you're working on at whatever time. Now using a hammer, just hit the back of the hub to loosen it. And then just slide it off the axle. making sure that your harness is pulled through. And then just hammer that backing plate off the hub and pull your harness up and out of the plate. On the left is the old hub, on the right is the new one from 1A Auto. You can see they're identical and they'll fit exactly the same. Take your backing plate and feed the harness of your new hub through it. And then put the backing plate into place on the wheel knuckle. And you want to make sure that the harness is going up through that top part of the plate. And once you have it lined up, push the hub back onto the axle and into place. And once it's in place, take a bolt and just twist it in to hold the plate and hub to the wheel knuckle. And then just replace the other two bolts and tighten all three of them up. Now torque each of these to 90 foot-pounds. And we left some clips in the body of the car, so you just remove the ones you don't need from your new harness. And the ones you do need, just leave on there and push into place on the wheel knuckle. And we'll just fast forward as Mike reclips the harness all the way along. And then reconnects the harness. And you want to make sure that these holes line up in between the two holes that are on the hub. And then you just slide your rotor back into place. And replace the lug nut to hold it into place. You want to check these slides on your caliper bracket, make sure they're greased up. If they're not, just apply some brake grease to them. And then fit the bracket into place. And then just start twisting in your bolts by hand and then tighten them up. Torque each of these to 110 foot-pounds. And then just replace your brake pads. And if there's no grease on the ends, just apply some brake grease. Now push your caliper back down into place. And replace those two 17mm bolts. And we'll fast forward as Mike does that and tightens those up. And now torque each of those to 40 foot-pounds. Replace the hub nut. Remove the lug nut that you put on there to hold the rotor in place. And then put your wheel in place. And then replace each of the lug nuts and tighten them preliminarily.
And if you're working with air tools, you can tighten up the center nut preliminarily, or you can wait and do this on the ground.
Now torque each of these to 100 foot-pounds in a crossing pattern. and then torque the hub nut to 103 foot-pounds. And then replace your hubcap. After you've done any work on the brakes, you want to just pump the brake pedal until it firms up. And then you want to do a stopping test from 5 miles per hour, then 10 miles per hour.
We hope this video helps you out. Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free, 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.